Welcome to A Line Through Time, where I take the time to look through your favourite franchises and work out how it all lines up. This was supposed to be the 6th main episode of A Line Through Time, but it's more of an explanation of a concept along the same lines of the episode on sliding timescales, and it's also relevant to the next main episode, so here we are. Yes, I'm changing the show's structure only 2 videos after establishing said structure because I'm a massive idiot. Kinda like the people who remake movies. But movie remakes are totally different to games as far as continuity goes. For example, Rob Zombie's Halloween remake was set in its own continuity. There was never any intention for it to supplant John Carpenter's original in any of the various timelines that make up that series. Nor was Peter Jackson's King Kong intended to replace the 1933 original as the prequel to Son of Kong. Games, however, typically are. Sure, if the series has been dormant long enough, it's a reboot, like XCOM for instance. But if the series is still ongoing at the time of the remake, it usually is intended to take the place of the original. Resident Evil's 2002 remake is a great example of this, as it is a great example of anything else positive you can say of remakes. The game completely overhauled the aesthetic compared to the original and also added new monsters, both of which have carried over to subsequent entries and depictions of the first game's events. So yes, Resident Evil 1 hasn't been canon since 2002. Mental. Tomb Raider 10th Anniversary Edition seemed like it was intended to go this way as well, but development shifted from the series creators' core design to Crystal Dynamics, who had just rebooted the series with Tomb Raider Legend. As such, Tomb Raider Anniversary, rather than supplant the original, served as the parallel version of the first game's events as they occurred in the Legend continuity. Pokemon's a complete mess though. It's theorised that the originals and remakes and the different versions within those groups are set in parallel universes thanks to stuff from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. This is why an episode on that franchise is very unlikely. Also because Trubbish is a thing that is allowed to exist. And let's just be clear on what exactly a remake is, because everyone who calls the Resident Evil Remakes HD remaster the remake is a complete cretin. The word remake consists of the word make and the prefix re, as in to do again. It means to make something again, not to touch it up. No one ever said George Lucas ruined Star Wars with a 1997 special edition Remakes. If you're still unsure, ask yourself this question, and yes, this is still relevant to the topic of this video: what was the starting point of this new version? Did it start from the previous installments and carry over its gameplay exactly? Remake. Did it start from the previous installment and expand upon its gameplay as if it were an entirely new game? Remake. Did it start totally from scratch and use the original as reference material? Remake. Did it start from the previous version and build on it? Enhanced re-release. Did it start from the previous version and only touch up the visuals and controls and remove some glitches? Remaster. We clear now? Good, because I'm bringing it back. Remakes and enhanced ports will typically add some new story content. This content, unless contradictory or stated otherwise, is typically to be considered canonical to the series from that point on. Examples include Crimson Heads and Lisa Trevor from Resident Evil, the Separate Ways campaign from the PS2 port of RE4, this thing from Persona 4 Golden, Snake's inexplicable love of backflips from the Twin Snakes, and the Majima Anywhere encounters from Yakuza Kiwami. Even if there's no new story content, a remake is typically intended to replace the previous version, even if just aesthetically. A remaster typically has no effect on the series canon aside from the occasional voice change or teeth eye. For this series, I'll only discuss remakes and enhanced versions if there is notable new story content like additional campaigns or characters. As you may have seen, I ignored Metroid Zero Mission and generalised Street Fighter 2 for this very reason. You can generally assume that if I don't mention it, the latest version is the canonical version. Except the Silent Hill HD collection, that's not, no. Hashtag fuck Konami. So let's finish things off by listing a selection of classic video games that are technically no longer considered canon. Castlevania, Dead or Alive 1 to 4, yeah. Doom, Fatal Frame 2, Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 7, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Mega Man, Metal Gear Solid, Metroid, Mortal Kombat 3, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, Persona 4, Resident Evil 2, Star Fox 64, the remake that replaced Star Fox, Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter 3 The New Generation, Super Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, Super Mario 64. So, in conclusion, to everyone out there who wants MGS1 to get another remake in spite of there being other entries in greater need of one,
it's time to stop!